Lincoln and York are very similar with their history, so we go back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Some of the ghosts, people always think of them as in white sheets, but a lot of them are recording in times, so that's why you probably get the Roman and the medieval ghosts. They are absolute recordings in time. My name is Margaret Green. I run the Lincoln Ghost Walk and have done for 13 years, and I now live in Lincoln. Paranormal activity on the Ghost Walk. We've had quite a lot on camera, some quite good photographs there, which hopefully one day will go in my book. About 4 people have seen a lady in white who walks from Exchequer Gate behind us to the top of Greystone and then just shakes her head as if I can't come any further. I have seen ghosts. The first house we bought in Lincolnshire was a 15th century cottage. We had a man at the top of the stairs, which frightened the kids to death. The eldest always said he was evil, and she still says that today. Then we moved into Lincoln, but we had fields at the back of the house. I took the dog for a walk one night. It was pouring with rain, black Labrador, torch. All of a sudden couldn't find the dog. Assumed he'd gone in the next field, so I went through the gateway into the next field, but I was being followed. And I can describe it as feet crunching in fresh snow. It was soggy, it was wet. You don't think ghost at this point. You just try and get home as quickly as possible. But I got myself cornered in the field, turned round to see who was following me with my torch. It was a monk. He was about 6 feet tall, and from his face he'd been dead a long time. Fair, fat and 55 in those days. I was on my hands and knees in the mud, and I crawled through the bottom of that hedge, covered in mud, twigs, leaves, the whole lot. Lost the torch. Would like to say I ran home. I shifted pretty quickly. When I got home, the dog sat on the doorstep waiting for me, so he'd obviously picked something up and left me to it. I go in the kitchen. Kids, late teens, early 20s by then, were absolutely hysterical with laughing. Apparently this was Mr. Crunchy. He'd followed them for over a year, but he was boring, so they'd never mentioned him. Mother never went for a walk in the field again after dark. I love Brown's Pie Shop. They've had quite a few stories there over the years. The main one is when the chef used to come in at 3 in the morning. He used to like to prepare his food and veg on his own. But he became aware over 6 to 8 weeks that naughty, childish things had started happening. Maybe his rolling pin was in the freezer. He eventually said this was a little boy of about 10, who he christened Humphrey. I don't know for what reason, but he didn't tell anyone about Humphrey, but spoke to him every morning when he came in, locked the door. Morning, Humphrey, you all right today? Chat, 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 doesn't matter, no one's around. But then we had our Christmas market. We have about 160,000 visitors past the shop. He, the chef, has to come in every day during the day, not at night. He's not going to talk to a ghost in front of everyone else. So Humphrey was ignored. Busy working away in the kitchen, carving some meat, when he heard the door slam. He assumed he hadn't turned the key far enough, but when he came down, the door was locked. There was no key in the keyhole, so he's trying to work out that mystery as he goes back into the kitchen. The knife he'd left on the table is now at the other side of the kitchen, sticking out of the floorboards and quivering. And he said, Mags, that's when my bottle left me completely. He said, I'm heading for the door when the fire blanket in the metal cylinder hit him on the back of the neck. The Castle Hill Club is right in the middle of Castle Square. It used to be the Black Boy Inn from, I think, 1725. That is where the hangman would stay when he worked in Lincoln. Isambard Kingdom Brunel stayed there when he worked on our canals in Lincoln. But the ghost appears to be in the cellar. When it's locked up at night, fine, but next morning no one's been in the cellar, things have moved. But a landlord a few times ago stopped me and said, Mags, the ghost in our cellar, do you know if it's a man or a woman? I haven't a clue, no one's ever seen it, why? He said, I'm the only person in the building, and clearing out the cellar when I bent over, someone pinched my bottom.
He said, I would like to know if it was a man or a woman.
My name's Ted Milnes. I'm a former chairman of Castle Hill Club, currently the secretary. I've not heard about that particular story, but we do have a number of stories which have been circulating for a long time, and we were visited quite recently by a paranormal group from Suffolk who claimed to find evidence of some of these sightings. Give you an example. This interview is being conducted in the snooker room, and of course there is a smoking ban in force in this country now, and our steward reported on a number of occasions smelling what seemed to be stale tobacco smoke. The paranormal group that I referred to earlier claim that this was a character called George, who used to look after the horses in the stables that were behind this building in the 1840s, and that it's the residue of his smoke that we can detect. Apparently in the cellar here, going back to the paranormal group, they detected the ghost of the Black Boy. Now, the Black Boy, of course, was never a real person in terms of membership of this, living in this building or anything. But we do have the bust of this Black Boy in the club, because the pub used to be called the Black Boy. Certainly when this group came along and mentioned this, it was the first I'd heard about the possible link with a ghost. I don't believe in ghosts, except I suppose I'm a little agnostic on the subject. I suppose therefore I can't actually say I don't believe in them. I suppose that's the truth. But I've not experienced anything like this personally, and I'm the sort of person that would go along with it if something had happened to me. However, with all the modern research and the technological advances that have been made in the search for psychic phenomena, I would have thought we would have known by now, but I remain to be convinced.
Right, my name is Paul Birkinshaw. My title is Canonsverger of the cathedral. People come miles around to see the imp. I mean, it's a foot-high carving, one of about 1,000 grotesque figures in the cathedral. And right above the head tomb shrine is this little devil figure. I suppose the idea is that no matter how holy an area is and how holy a man is, the devil is always looking over your shoulder. And I think that's a popular idea of why this imp figure is actually in that position. So it's looking over the shoulder of a great saint, because evil can be in all the unexpected places, and that's probably the reason why it's there. People say that there are ghosts around this area. We don't know much about them. I mean, obviously with the church being holy ground, you very rarely get ghosts in churches. So I've not really heard much about in the cathedral itself. I mean, as for the area, I mean, if ghosts do exist, this is a very old historic area, and so of course there are plenty of, there would be plenty of apparitions with these in such an old place. I mean, Lincoln's history goes back up to 2,000 years. So if ghosts do exist, there's plenty of material for them to work on. I don't know, I have been on the ghost walk myself, so there's quite a few interesting stories, especially around the castle. As I said, not many around the cathedral itself. I think she's dying to find one, but there's no real big story that I know of. You sometimes see something out of the corner of your eye, and although there is a lovely story about a sacristan who came in, found an apparition dressed in white, had a fit, and then turned out that they'd actually locked in a choir boy overnight by accident, and he'd put on all the choir surplices to keep warm. There are more things in heaven and earth than you could write about or imagine, and life is always full of surprises, so best thing is keep an open mind. I think the thing of a lot of stories and myths and that, there is always a bit of truth in all of them. Things get exaggerated or stylised. There are things you've got to just sort of take either with a pinch of salt or believe it but not be able to explain it.